This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay, things people love.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about a phrase that, is known as a saying, I'm not scared of hard work, but some people are scared of hard work, and I will talk about who and why. And it's not just people who are lazy, it's not just some sort of boomerism, but it really speaks to people who are anxious and depressed. And I will get into that as soon as I tell you to subscribe. I have over about 185 subscriber episodes. So if you want to make some progress in your self-growth, which is why a lot of people listen to this podcast. Despite how entertaining I am, I don't think that anybody just listens to it for pure entertainment. It is really kind of, when people listen to it, they tell me it's kind of a cost-effective way to do some internal reflection and almost a little bit of DIY therapy. Now, of course, it's not therapy, and of course, you should be in your own therapy if you need to be. But a lot of times, people listen to a bunch of these episodes, and then they kind of have this foundation from which they can think about actually doing therapy because they know some more of what's going on. They understand themselves better. They may understand their partner better. They understand why they got to be how they are and what they have to work on. So anyway, if you want 185 more opportunities for self-growth and reflection, you should definitely subscribe. And the link is always in the description of each episode. Okay, so who is scared of hard work and what does that mean? So a lot of people that are anxious are really terrified to change anything up. So ironically, they are anxious, so they are working all the time. Their whole nervous system is activated constantly. They are always thinking, they're always ruminating, they're always over-preparing. So for example, there's a lot of people that are doing like 50 times the work they need to be doing for their job because they're anxious. And I remember when I got pregnant, I was on internship. And so that's the last year of your PhD as a clinical psychologist or a PhD student in clinical psychology. You go on internship where you work in a clinical setting full time for 1 year. And mine was at MUSC and the Charleston VA. So I was in South Carolina. And I got pregnant the very earliest time I felt like I could, given that I wanted to finish my program. And I got so tired. I was so tired because I had never been pregnant before. I hadn't expected the fatigue that happens when you're tired. I was 28. And I got super tired. And I still had to finish my dissertation in addition to working full time at the VA, and I didn't have children, so I didn't understand that I had all the time in the world. It felt like I was very busy, with the full-time job and the dissertation and the first trimester of pregnancy. And so I got my draft back to my advisor, and I really didn't change much. I mean, he had given me some corrections to make because we were going back and forth via email because I was going to come back and defend my dissertation after my internship, which is common, and he was giving me these corrections, and I just I felt I phoned them in embarrassingly. Like I just did so little effort. I kind of fixed the sentence up. Maybe I found another citation, but it was really, I felt it was almost embarrassing. I felt in my mind that I was kicking the can down the road, and it was very likely that he would reprimand me and say that it had been insufficient. And lo and behold, it was fine. It was totally fine, and it was, in fact, a similar response to any response I had ever gotten for any work that I had ever done. And I had put in a quarter of the effort, and if that. And I still remember it. It was, experiential learning is the most powerful learning, not just, that's why there's a behavioral part of CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy. You can't just talk about stuff, and somebody can't just tell you, oh, it'll be different. Like maybe you're over preparing. Yeah, okay. But you actually have to be coached into trying, for example, to do less. Now, I was not doing that. No therapist told me to do that. That was my pregnancy. I just couldn't fucking look at it anymore. Like I was so exhausted. So I just, just tried it and assumed it would go pretty bad, but I just could not deal with it really. And lo and behold, it was the exact same response that I had ever gotten. And it was transformational. I remember it was like an epiphany. I was like, holy shit, what if it's always been like this? What if I was always over preparing? And so, and then from that moment on, I really remember that probably a few times a year still, but after it happened, it was really life-changing. And I was like, my God, I'm not going to do this anymore. And this is obscene. If I was really doing this amount of over preparation, then what in the world? What a waste of time, right? And so all of that story is to show that people who are anxious, and I was quite anxious about my academic achievement at that point in my life, as all PhDs are, you don't want to go through the whole thing and then you can't defend your dissertation, you don't want to be ABD or anything. You can't even be ABD and then become a clinical psychologist. That means all but dissertation. You can't do that. You need to have it. If you want to become a psychologist, you got to get the PhD, right? And it's an onerous program, as they all are, and it obviously, as all academic programs of that nature do, they draw people who are very, anxious about their achievement. And so it was really a light bulb moment. And so all of this is to say that if you are an anxious person, you are over preparing 100%. And that over preparation means that you are literally taking up more of your time than you could do to do something else. So for example, and so you're saying, all right, great, that's a nice little story, thanks. And also, how does this have to do with scared of hard work? People that are over preparing for just random, cursory level stuff are not able to do harder work. They are truly scared of harder work. So for example, a teacher that does, and this is common with teaching, because again, it's conscientious, perfectionistic people, same people that go into a PhD program, a lot of overlap, they are over preparing their lessons. They're over assiduous in correcting the papers, and they are giving themselves too much time to prepare and lesson plan, etc., because they are anxious of failing and being humiliated or not having their ducks in a row. And therefore, many of them do not want to do something else. So they don't want to go up the ladder. They don't want to become a principal. They don't want to, let's say, they may be struggling financially in their home, but they don't want to start a side business or a tutoring business. They don't even want to work over the summer, a lot of them, because they are so fucking maxed out by the over preparation during the year. And that over preparation ironically means they are doing so much hard work that they are scared to put anything else on their plate. And I see this happen with men in a middle management role, the men that say that they cannot get above a certain level. They want to go higher in their organization, or they may even have a dream of building a business, but they can't, because they are so anxious that they are overworking in their current role. They are so scared of fucking up that they are then terrified because they have so much extra work on their plate, which they don't think of as a choice. They think of it as something you have to do. When you're anxious, you think you have to work this hard. So then they are truly scared of the other hours that would be required, for example, to start a side hustle, because they are overestimating it, and they also are giving themselves more work at a baseline level in their day job. So when their wife may say, all right, fine, you want to start a business, why don't you just start a business, right? I mean, start it in the nights and the weekends then. And they'll say, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. I would be so overwhelmed. And then the woman may think, well, shit, was he scared of some hard work? Well, that's because he is overworking because of his anxiety in his current job and cannot imagine that he would ever then have even one moment of spare time if he were to take something else on. And that is how anxiety sabotages people. It expands how much you do and think about. You could do this even as a stay-at-home mom. I have a whole podcast about women who say they can't go back to work because the school-age kids are going to need them. And the guy thinks, so this is the gender inverse, the guy thinks she's just scared of work. She's just scared of hard work. She's just lazy. No, the way that she as an anxious person manages the home takes all day. She thinks hours about everything that she does. Everything she buys is comparison shopped. She researches constantly out of anxiety that she may make the wrong decision. She is constantly planning and over-planning the schedule, the children's activities, the things around the home, every lunch and dinner. Goes to the grocery store constantly because God forbid that the children should have to eat something they don't want, or that they shouldn't have something in the house that they're supposed to have, or that she should have bought it at the wrong price, or that anybody should have a substitute item. If it wasn't there the first time, then she'll go back, etc. So this anxiety means that she is overworking as a stay-at-home mom, meaning that yes, she is scared of what she then perceives to be some doubling of workload that would be unsustainable given that she already works 18 hours a day at full capacity due to her anxiety in her current role. So that's how anxiety makes you somebody who is scared of hard work, quote unquote, because you're really not. But if you've ever thought that your spouse is, or if you yourself have felt terrified about like the idea, like you really want to do a side business, but you're just scared of all the work involved, think very hard about whether you are anxious, and this anxiety is making you do more than you need to at a basic level, so that you cannot then add more to your plate, which you perceive as disastrous because it would be more than 24 hours in a day in your anxious view. Now, the second way that I said that I would discuss is depression. What depression does is it saps your confidence and your energy. So it isn't just being sad. It isn't crying. I've done a lot of you cry and you're sad too a lot of the time, but not all the time. What depression is losing interest or pleasure in things that you usually enjoy, or being tired, apathetic, and really just in a terrible mood, irritable, angry. Like there's so many different things, right? So you either have to feel down or depressed most of the day, or you have to lose interest or pleasure in the things that you usually enjoy. And then there's those are the criteria. Then there's like a million other criteria after those two main ones that get you in the door for a depression diagnosis. And a lot of them are lack of energy, lack of confidence, guilt, always feeling like you're doing the wrong thing, And so in this case, you do become, quote, scared of hard work too, because you think you will definitely fuck it up and that you don't have the energy really to do it. So and depression and anxiety, of course, overlap. So if you are somebody who's depressed and anxious, then you are running at a very low battery charge at all times, and you feel like you have 20 million more things to do than the average person because you're so anxious and perfectionistic about it. And then the idea of adding one more thing to your plate it feels crazy to you. It feels unsustainable. It feels like it would never work. It would just be another area to fail. So if this resonates with you, if any of this stuff resonates with you and you do not feel like you're doing things like your maximum capacity or rather you feel like you are always over your maximum capacity and therefore you're unable to do other things, and you have either felt this or heard this before, this scared of hard work thing, then you have to really take a deep dive in individual therapy about whether you're depressed or anxious, and where did you learn this idea that you have to do more than everybody else, like the duck with its legs scrambling under the water, cycling feverishly. And I'll tell you something that a lot of people will not want to hear. If your spouse has told you that you do too much, more than average for an average level of output, they're not wrong. Your spouse is an expert on you, just like you know about your spouse. This is why I try to get spouses in for like a consultation session with my individual therapy clients. They can give so much background and so much interesting, useful data from their perspective. So if you have heard your husband say, and he's a dick for saying this, and there's nice ways to say it and not nice ways, but if he has ever said anything like, I don't understand what you do all day. You're at home. This should be easy. What's going on? No shit, that's a dick move. He's not, empathy isn't his strength. But if he were better able to verbalize it, he would say something like this. I do not see all the stay-at-home moms that we know as anxious and tired as you, which makes me think that with the best of intentions, you try so hard for our family, but I think that you may be struggling with anxiety, with depression, with something, because this isn't supposed to feel so terrible. And I really think that maybe you should talk to somebody. Now, for somebody to say that, they got to be like trained by their own therapist or listening to my podcast or something. But, and it is, of course, like nobody should come in and just be like, what the fuck did you do all day? Obviously, but the point, while that guy may not be like Mr. Good Communicator and he may be a dick, but he got a point, right? Like, it shouldn't be that hard. And if your wife says to you, I don't get it. Like, other men go to their job, they come home, and then they can do things with the kids. They can do things around the house. They don't just have to lay down or sit on the couch all afternoon, or all evening. What is going on? Like, why can't you do more stuff? You said that you wanted to pick up a hobby. Why don't you go? Why don't you take our kids to play catch? What's happening? Well, she may have a point. You may be working at such a frenetic pace at work because you're so anxious so that you are just destroyed by the time you get home, which would be anxiety. Or you may be depressed, so you're using all of your energy in the workplace and you are ignoring that it is unusual to feel as depleted when you're at home, or just the same as the stay-at-home mom, or like whatever, the teacher that can't work in the summer. A lot of guys are like, well, you're a teacher. Why can't you work in the summer? Why can't you pick up some hours doing something? And the woman's like, you don't understand how exhausted I am. Well, yeah, he doesn't, because of the reasons that I'm saying here. But anyway, the point is if anybody has ever insinuated or you have felt, why can other people do more things, accomplish more things than me? It's not scared of hard work. It is scared, though. It's scared. It's often scared, aka anxious or depressed, and having a deep fear of failure and a deep lack of confidence. And a lot of that stuff can also be traced back to family of origin if you're working with a skilled therapist in individual therapy. So I hope that this was interesting to you guys and it gave you some food for thought. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.